Hello to my good friends at Network. I was asked to say a few words to you about how my faith influences my views on immigration. But before I get started, let me commend Network for the Nuns on the Bus campaign. By getting on that bus last summer, with dozens of hearings across America, you gave voice to the poor. Many people who had that influence in their lives go unheard of in this Capitol building. I truly believe that the Nuns on the Bus campaign changed the national conversation on our national priorities and our budget. It reminded us our social safety net has to be strengthened in hard times, not shredded. Let me also congratulate one of my personal sheroes and a clear and compelling voice for social justice, Sister Simone Campbell. I was so deeply moved by her powerful speech at the 2012 Democratic National Convention. She spoke about putting the gospel and faith to work in the real world. That's what Network has always done and continues to do. Let me say a word about that faith and immigration. These two issues are deeply intertwined in my life. You see, 102 years ago, my grandmother left Lithuania with her 3 small children to join my grandfather in America. She was holding in her arms a 2-year-old infant, my mom. Hidden in my grandmother's luggage was a small Catholic prayer book. It had been printed in 1863. Now, the date was significant. You see, Lithuania at that time was under the occupation of the Russian Tsar. 1863 was the last year they allowed Catholics in Lithuania to print a prayer book in Lithuanian. Otherwise, they were outlawed. Now, that prayer book, the last relic of my family's journey to America, is a reminder why they came. My grandparents wanted to create a better life for their children. They wanted their children to grow up in this great nation, but they also wanted to live in a land where they could practice their faith freely. That's part of my inheritance as the son of an immigrant. I'm really grateful for it. The Bible's book of Leviticus tells us, when strangers sojourn with you in your land, you shall not do them wrong. The strangers who sojourn with you shall be to you as the natives among you, and you shall love them as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Indeed, the principle that we should treat strangers in our land as we would ourselves is really repeated over and over again in the Old Testament. The current debate on comprehensive immigration reform has been elevated not only by Network and the Nuns on the Bus, but by so many people from so many different religious traditions who are trying to help to take that commandment seriously. As many of you know, there's one part of immigration reform that's near and dear to my heart. 12 years ago, I introduced the DREAM Act. And there's been one constant throughout. The faith community has stood behind me. I'm a politician, not a pastor, so I tread carefully when I speak about religion. But this much is safe to say: the DREAM Act is based on a fundamental moral principle shared by all faith traditions, and it's this: it's wrong to punish children for the actions of their parents. I often talk about the pragmatic reasons to be for the DREAM Act, but I believe there's also a strong moral argument. Every faith tradition recognizes we have a special obligation to protect innocent children. That's what the DREAM Act does. These young people came to the U.S. as children. It wasn't their decision to come here. They were packed up and brought here. They grew up in schoolrooms where they pledged allegiance to the only flag they've ever known and sang with their hand over their heart to our national anthem, the only national anthem they've ever known. In their hearts, they're Americans. That's why I'm thrilled that as part of this bipartisan immigration bill, we have the strongest version of the DREAM Act ever introduced. It has strong labor protections in this bill for guest workers as well. It emphasizes family unity. It improves protections for refugees and those seeking asylum. One of the biggest changes in the bill, we eliminate the 1-year deadline for refugee and asylum applications. We've heard from the faith community and a lot of others. These vulnerable populations really struggle with this deadline, but we're going to make it easier for them to tell their compelling stories. You're embarking on the Nuns on the Border tour at the right time. It's our hope the Senate Judiciary Committee will finish marking up the bill this month and that the full Senate will start this historic debate on immigration in June. This is a promising time for immigration reform, but we still need your help. We need people and communities of faith to continue to speak out on the need for a balanced immigration bill, protecting our economy, protecting our national security, but also protecting our heritage as a compassionate people and a nation of immigrants. Your tireless advocacy has elevated so many issues that deserve to be heard. Thank you for taking on this campaign to support immigration reform.